Greetings all, and welcome to Everything Borrowed, where conversations are cultivated between myself and some of the greatest minds in a variety of industries. Today is presented to you by Blake's Hard Cider. Born on a third-generation farmstead, Blake's offers an adventurous exploration of the fruits of our labor. We're innovators embracing the sweet nectar from our soil. We're farmers that have been perfecting the apple for over 75 years, and I have to tell you, you need to get out to the store and buy this right away. It is going like hotcakes, folks. I was just looking at Nielsen IRI data, and we are the fastest growing hard cider company in the entire United States. This stuff's for real. You must be 21 to enjoy. Remember to enjoy the fruits of our labor mindfully. What do you do when you find yourself as the CEO of a massive entertainment company with over 1,500 employees and 25 locations during a global pandemic? Anthony LaVerde of Emagine Theaters sits down with us to talk about how a $43 million loss for the year has only given him more reason to double down on investing in more locations. We discuss high risk, big reward, and the incredible challenges faced along the way. Hope you guys enjoy. One of the reasons why we really wanted to do the show and why I think it got picked up by a lot of mediums for distribution was, we really wanted to have conversations and actually get into some of the detail of what people are using as like the echo chamber points of the governor's bad, or lockdowns are killing business, or if you try to open your business you're killing people. There's like just these really big kind of pillars that people have stuck in, and they're not having conversations about
without getting angry.
And I feel if someone has any right to be angry, it's restaurants have been hit hard, but I don't know anyone who's been hit harder than movie theaters. And especially when what you do and the product you provide at Emagine is is a high quality, enjoyable experience, and really was on the cutting edge of reimagining theaters. Yeah. I mean, it's the only place I go and take my wife, and I mean, it's a whole experience, and that's what we do here at Blake's. But I mean, you haven't been open in how long?
10 months.
10 months.
10 months.
And when you look at not being open for 10 months, do you see any end in sight? At some point, other people have been allowed to breathe, and been allowed to, kind of try to make a case for their business and reinvent themselves, but you haven't even had any opportunity to try anything new. So you've just been completely shut down.
We have had limited ability to try new things. We've done private theater rentals, alternative content, because the studios aren't putting out any content right now. Mm-hmm. There's not a mass distribution for their product.
Right.
So you're right, we don't have many options. We do to-go orders for popcorn. This weekend we're going to be doing popcorn and gift cards. Buy a $25, $40 gift card, get free popcorn. We'll always continue to try to innovate in the box we're in, but we'll try. But you're right, it's been a terribly difficult 10 months. I understand some of the decisions that have been made, but I do understand that there's probably a middle ground somewhere that we haven't hit. And when you close a business and expect them to still pay their full property taxes, their full licensing fees for liquor and health inspections, I think we missed the mark a little bit. I'm all about public safety. I think social media has added to the anger around this, and there's not much mature conversation taking place. Apparently we want to open, we want to kill people, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, there's a real lack of nuance in the discussion. It's just these big points and no nuance in how to do it safely. And you talked about, the one thing I'd have to imagine, you're reinventing yourself, but a movie theater, enterprise, and the infrastructure and the cost structure that you have, you can't get by selling fucking popcorn to go and and movie tickets for whenever it opens. I mean, there's just such a big cost structure there that you have to just be, luckily you're well capitalized and that you're in a place where you're able to weather that storm. But how many local, mom and pop theaters that I grew up going to around in small town Armada and Romeo, two show theaters, just are done. They're just throwing in the towel.
Yeah, we were conservatively run.
Yeah.
We, in fact, are only one of 3 theater chains in the entire country that did have the ability to get a Main Street loan under that program, and but losses are significant.
Are you talking PPP?
No, this was the federal program.
Okay.
It's debt,
Right.
but it allows us to continue to operate. And PPP is a great program, but when you're closed, there's no one to pay.
Anyone. You employ
So-
everyone to come in and sweep the floors, or turn the lights on and turn them off.
So it basically adds more debt to the balance sheet, and that's not exactly attractive to us at this time.
Right.
So we've done our best to obtain funding where available. We're down to about 20 plus employees from over 1,500.
That's insane.
But we care about our team members. We waited a long time to do each round of cuts. We're a family. We really are a family-run company similar to yours. You know, we started as one screen in the early 90s in Clarkston, Michigan. So what we've done is, for the folks we have laid off, we continue to pay their health care, their benefits. Because in the end, that's some reassurance, puts their mind to ease a little bit, but
I mean,
it's
a step. What else can you do? You know, I mean, that's the thing is, a lot of businesses, are kind of in this placeholder position where what can you do, and what and there's a lot that you want to do, but you got to make money to be able to provide for your people, and you get into this really interesting situation where, is it the government's right to to decide which businesses can and can't? And I always said this, and as it relates to the restaurant industry, which I'm a little closer to than the movie industry, though I'm learning, is, restaurant industries and probably the movie industry, they don't have huge lobbies, really helping support their initiatives and to make sure that they're being taken care of and that there's thoughtful and meaningful, kind of, progress being made to help them reopen. And so, the lowest on the totem pole as far as, industries based, as far as who has representation with politicians, and those are the ones that seem to be getting, affected the most. And that's really, I think, where the frustration is rightfully, had by business owners, because you have to have some across the board logic to, what's being shut down and what's not. And it feels a little bit at, whatever government administration's, kind of opinion, because it's not consistent in any state,
Listen, I think, I won't speak for you, but I think being a politician is probably a zero-sum game at this point. I mean, you can't win.
Right.
But I do know that at some point, there has to be some common sense applied. And when you have shut a business for this long, I find it a little bit difficult to swallow that we have paid over $2 million in property tax to date since we've been closed. And I'm not sure how that equation works. We're not able to open to make income to pay our taxes, yet our taxes are still due. And if we didn't pay those taxes, what happens? Well, the government would put a lien and seize our property, right? So that is where my angst sits.
Sure.
I don't envy the position of our governor or anyone else, but I do know that at some point we have to put some common sense into into how we're looking at the small businesses, because I know we did today this program launched with the $10 million for the state of Michigan, and every business applied, and it was gone.
Goes like that. That's
nothing.
That's, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
That's 15 grand per business.
You need, and you need $2 million, and and who, maybe you don't need $2 million, but you could sure use it as far as the losses you've had to incur. So what is $10 million? It's out of the trillion that went where?
Yeah, I think common sense needs to apply at some point, and we I think we can be better at being sympathetic.
Sure.
I think one of the things that really hit home with me was the barbershops and salons. When the comment was made, go on YouTube to learn how to cut your hair. Well, then why do we need all of those hours of licensing and pay the state fees to become a hairdresser if I can just go learn on YouTube.
That's such a stupid statement. It's like, oh, you want to eat food, learn to grow it yourself, learn to butcher a cow. It's like, learn to be a farmer. It's like, okay, really?
I think the messaging could be more sympathetic.
Yeah, right.
Especially for our industry and the restaurant industry, I feel for people.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to feel for people.
And where is that at right now as you look at having to, take care of, taxes and things of that nature? Is there discussion at the state level, at the federal level, outside of PPP and, a temporary shutdown and intermittent shutdowns for parts of our business at Blake's? We haven't, knock on wood, we've been able to operate, and we're very grateful to be able to do so. And we take it very seriously to do it safely and responsibly. And, we've been able to keep the lights on and pay the bills and keep our employees. But for companies that aren't in that position and that are well organized, well run, well executed with great products, companies such as yourselves, what's the conversation on how, if any, support comes down the pipeline ever? Or is this a hole you're gonna have to dig yourself out of?
Well, it's definitely a hole that we'll dig out of. Losses to date, amount to it's tens of millions of dollars, and it's going to take years to dig out of. But I'm confident we can. I think we have the best managed theater business in the nation, and
I'll second that.
Thank you. And there's metrics to show that.
Yeah.
But there is a bill in front of Congress right now called Save Our Stages, which is meant for theaters and live stage performance. Broadway in New York, which, God,
Right.
You want to talk about an industry that's been hit just as hard as we have. So I'm hoping that this weekend we get some news on that bill, and it provides some much needed funding for us.
And in your opinion, if that bill is passed, is it substantial enough to support in the ways it needs to support? I mean, we're always going to say we want to be,
Yeah. I think as a company,
we need more,
yeah.
but is it substantial enough to really real relief, or is it window dressing?
I'm hoping that one is real relief, but you're never counting on it. We've recently decided to do an additional capital raise from investors. So I think our runway gets us to the end of 2021 in almost any scenario right now, and that's the smart thing to do, because I honestly have given up guessing.
Right.
And that's where we are. We never count on the government coming to help, but certainly if they do, it will be much appreciated.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to be. But even amongst all of that, you've kind of pushed forward with a plan or post pandemic rather, to go after more aggressive business and expand your model and your offering in the days that people are excited to get back and to have those historical traditional experiences with family and girlfriends and dates and whatever. I mean, the movie theater is an iconic experience. I mean, I know streaming has grown, but so I have to imagine has the want to more meaningfully go out and have an experience with members of your family, with your community. And I think my estimation would be that there will be a real reversion back to that, because everyone's been so digitized out. Yeah. And so from your home out and streamed out, they want to get out and feel and smell the popcorn and and eat. Exactly. And I think that you'll see that, and you've really invested in that. So talk about why it makes sense to go after and be bullish at a time where still the future's unknown.
I go back to the old Warren Buffett saying, right? Yeah. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. Sure. And we're not done acquiring businesses. We've acquired 4 new theaters during the pandemic to date, and there's more to come because we believe. I've been wrong. I hope I'm not. But we believe that folks want to come back to the theaters and have a communal experience. There was an interesting study done early last year about folks that stream a lot of content. And it turns out that the folks stream content are more likely to come to the theater. So I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think you can stream all the content you want and still come to the theater and have a great experience. But to that point, it has to be a great experience. You have to care about your customer. You can't have sticky floors, rockers. You need recliners. In fact, now we put in heated recliners, like many of the vehicles in the country. We've invested in our location in Novi, Michigan. We put a screen in that's the exact size of an NBA basketball court, hung on the wall.
What?
Yeah. So for Star Wars, for Marvel films.
The big one, the big
ones.
Visual, impactful. That's awesome.
And then a year later in Canton, Michigan, our competitor folded and went out of business. And instead of just sitting on our hands going, well, we'll get those folks in our theater now, we went out and spent millions of dollars and built an even larger screen to the one we have in Novi, a Super IMAX in Canton, to provide a better experience than our competitor down the road that went out of business. And I think if you provide a value proposition, a good experience, people will come. And I think it's the same thing you guys do here, right? I mean, it's a family-owned, you care about the product, you care about your customer, and people are loyal to your brand. You've built the brand.
Yeah, and the experiences that you guys have created and cultivated at the movie theater. I mean, for those who don't go, I mean, it's a restaurant, it's a bar, it's a food experience. It's a traditional movie experience, but it's comfortable. You can fall asleep in the damn things,
I've done it.
Yeah, right. If the movie's a bust, it's a comfy spot to rest your eyes. And I think about how that is, something that you want to plan, a night around, a day around. And, I think that that's going to be a real important thing as we kind of move past, the pandemic. But what do you see as the evolution of, movie theater, like maybe the products that shoulder movie theater and that experience? You think about an increase in e-gaming or things like that. Are there other things on the horizon that you could see kind of molding into the future vision of your world, or is it right now offer the greatest movie experience and kind of there's so much going on with technology, with Oculus and in 3D whatever, and it's just it's hard to keep up with. But I just imagine what's on the horizon.
You touched on it perfectly. So you say the traditional movie going experience. Yeah. I think we all realize that shifted a while ago. Combining technology with the theater experience is going to be immensely important moving forward. In January, we're going to roll out a brand new app that we've spent almost the last 6 months developing and building and perfecting, because we saw an opportunity to bring technology in to better the experience. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit at home, you're going to buy your movie ticket now, which you do now, you're going to reserve your seat, but you're also going to pre-order your concessions. As soon as you come in the building, we're going to know your phone's in the building, it's going to print out your order, and we're going to deliver it to your seat. And that's just a little bit of how I think technology is going to develop.
The experience.
Yes, and we should always be trying to provide. If we're doing our job, we're always looking how to provide a better experience, right? Now on the content front, we're working on really exciting stuff. One thing can't talk about, but trust me, I think it will transform how theaters are viewed. And I know Nick's been my man right here, Nick's with us, our marketing guru, but we've been working on something huge for about 7 months now. And I think we're finally at the end of the tunnel where we can announce it pretty soon. But we are not going to be a traditional theater anymore.
I never thought you were, and I don't know if that's you, if that's where that kind of philosophy and ethos comes from. But I wanted to kind of ask you. It triggered my thoughts a minute when you said the last 7 months we've been working on something that we think will help revolutionize. And in some ways, as painful as it has been and still is, did this time kind of enable some sort of change in how you're going to approach your business moving forward? And is there a chance that there's a silver lining of what comes out of this for the future of your concept and what you're building, because this was the pause needed to really think differently. Is that just trying to like put too much like positivity on a shitty situation?
I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone to call me an optimist, because I tend to always drill down on everything that's going wrong to fix it, and if things going right, just leave it. It's going right. So I wouldn't consider this to have any silver lining, but I will say maybe maybe it's given us time to think a little more without worrying about all the little holes in the dams that we need to plug on a daily basis. But no, we've been working on this initiative prior to the shutdown. I think we knew bringing in different types of content was going to be important. We needed to diversify away from just studio product. So, I mean, outside of the idea that we're really excited about, I think you'll see live entertainment, bands, local bands playing in some of our 200 and 300 seat venues, because they're intimate, they're acoustically wonderful, and you can have a local band that has a smaller following really get their name out there and play to their audience. I think comedy shows, we've done some magic shows. I think there is huge opportunities for streaming content into our theaters. I think you'll see...
Explain what that looks like.
So I think Netflix will start to produce content for theaters. I think The Irishman was an interesting lesson for them in spending so much money on a film. Huge production, and sending it to streaming. And the subscriber base is the subscriber base. At some point, there's a diminishing return, right? Because you're not going to gain enough subscribers to pay for some of the content you need to produce. So, a movie like Avengers, it's doing billions of dollars in a theatrical release. I think there's a model that stays there. Now, is it 90 days, 60 days? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I never really thought about that, but there's kind of this gravitas that comes with a movie theater release and a worldwide premiere, and I just don't think some of those things you'll ever get just sitting at home, and I think that's a reality in everything that we do. I think our homes are going to become more integrated, more downloadable, probably more comfortable, be able to have access. But I don't know if access necessarily means that the other things don't exist in a meaningful or more meaningful way, because it kind of sets a standard, like you said. Like how would Avengers be Avengers if it wasn't like every kid going to the movie theater, like, dressed up and looking at it? Or like for me, it was like Harry Potter releases. I was like the nerd, fucking couldn't wait for the movie to come out, and then dressed up one time.
The excitement. Like if I asked you right now, what was the first film you went to see as a kid? Would you remember that?
Yeah, Disney. It's Disney and it's Lion King.
Yeah,
it's Lion King.
People that I remember, have an intimate relationship with going to the theater, memories, and a communal experience. I don't think, I hope I'm wrong, I hope I'm right, I don't think folks want to sit home for the rest of their lives. I mean, listen, we all have kitchens, but we still go out to restaurants.
Yeah,
right?
That's great, yeah.
So I think people still want to get out of the home, have communal experiences. At the end of Avengers, there was a huge roar in the crowd. I'll never forget that. It was the opening night of one of our screens, and you're not going to get that at home. Now, do you have to provide a top-notch experience? Yes. Did theaters do that for the past 25 years? No. In the late 90s, early 2000s, it was a shitty experience. Let's face it, it was. And that opened the door for what Emagine became. To care about your customer.
You can listen to any song on repeat anymore in your car while you're driving or you're at home, but you go for that communal connectiveness to the music and to the experience and to the people. And that ticket isn't just to hear the music; it's to feel the experience and all of that. And I do think that's I think the movie experience is exactly that same way, and I think that's why we do those, and I think that's why it's us. In an age of digitization, and also there's I think that's what we bank on here. People although they don't need to, they can get apples delivered to their door, want to see their kids pick apples and have that touch with the tree and be out in nature and get dirty and, it's like...
Maybe I'm really old, but
I keep struggling with the fact that am I getting too old for the current world, the digital world, or is that rooted in a real kind of pathway? And I only can land in the spot that I hope I'm right, because that seems like a more enjoyable life experience than everything digitized.
I have to think that a communal out-of-home experience is still something people want. And if I'm wrong,
we're both wrong. Then,
we have many other issues to worry about.
Yeah.
But I think folks want to get out of their home for communal experiences. I do.
When do you think we'll be back in theaters? When do you think I'll be able to pick up? When will I be able to go on your new app?
Told you I was done guessing, but no.
I know. But if you had to throw it, because I'm looking forward to getting back. So
I think we'll be open.
I owe my wife like 80 dates at this point.
But we're still open in Wisconsin if you want to come join.
All right, we'll
That's
take
the
a
only
road
state
trip.
we're open in. So no, I think we'll be open in some form sometime in Q1 2021. I think return to normalcy is somewhere between June and July. And then I think after July, we're now concentrating on, okay, we're back to normal. How do we get this company back to where it was financially?
Sure.
But I think we're within 6 months of normalcy.
Sure.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right, and
I hear that phrase one more time.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of getting exhausting. What could you, if you had to say, what kind of thoughts could you give to other people in the industry kind of going through a similar thing? I mean, you guys have seemed like you've done all the right things in being, good stewards of the community and, being respectful of the government that has, kind of placed this burden upon you, and it feels like you're planning for the future. There's other companies that are getting much more outspoken and aggressive, and it's sad to see that where there's kind of this infighting going on. But, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and what should an entrepreneur be planning for? Obviously, you touched, I think you do a really good job of, understanding the real business side of where you want to go, and that you have to have, cash flows. You said you did another round of funding, that you're well funded to be able to weather the storm. What other considerations are you guys making, and should other companies be making that that aren't going to open for another 3 months?
Yeah,
because no one thought it could be a year. Everyone kind of planned for like 3 months, 6 months tops.
I agree. I think there's a couple of ways to look at that. One, I would say, always be conservative with your balance sheet. I mean, it's a lesson, I think, for the past 4 years that our employees were always tired of hearing when we'd have monthly meetings saying, did we really need to spend that? Did it move the needle? Can we be more efficient? This is the base. This is why you act conservatively. Without disparaging anybody, I think it's the exact opposite of how public companies are acting these days. The fact that we threw the airlines money right away when their stocks were not at all-time lows by any means, and they had the ability to raise money publicly all they want. It will never sit well with me. But as a private company, you have to understand you don't have. I think you stated this earlier very well, you don't have access to government the way others do. So I think really being conservative on your balance sheet is one. Always treating your investors as number one. Your employees and your investors, number one. Because the fact that in the history of Emagine, this is our first capital call ever, the fact that we've been transparent with our investors for the last 20 years, the fact that we've run conservatively for the last 20 years, gives us the ability to go to our investors during the worst moment in the history of theaters and say, can we have more money?
We're going on the front foot. We're not sitting back. We're going to go find other businesses, and we're going to come out of this well.
You're always interviewing for your next thing, right? How we treated investors the last 20 years was really just an interview for us on what happens when we need them when we get in trouble, right? And the fact that we've treated our employees and our investors right for 20 years gives us the ability to survive. So, I mean,
that's a great lesson.
That's, I think, the most important thing is
you've earned legitimacy and credibility.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you burn your investors or you treat your employees poorly, it's going to be very hard when you're really in need to have anyone come help you.
Right.
So I think that's the greatest lesson of this so far. Hopefully that's the last lesson of this.
Yeah, right.
But
you seem like a pretty young guy to be running the ship over there. What how'd you
not that young.
But you have a young spirit. How'd you kind of fall into the position, and did you plan to be in the movie business?
No. Born and raised in New York my whole life until 5 years ago. Moved to Michigan.
Because of the weather, right?
Yeah, the weather. It was I couldn't. It was too warm in New York.
Yeah. It's not much better.
Moved to Michigan for family reasons, and met our chairman and founder, Paul Glantz, and at the time we were 5 or 6 theaters, and we just did this huge joint venture in Minnesota for 10 more, and he really decided it was time to grow this chain. So we were at this function the other night, and then he said, we dated a short period of time.
Yeah, right.
We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner over the course of a couple of weeks, and we shared the vision of what we wanted to do, and it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
We're now 29 buildings in 5 states, and more to come. And
do you see yourself in a Midwest footprint, or do you see yourself beyond that?
I would never say never.
Yeah.
But I think we would really like to solidify our Great Lakes Midwest position, and I think we're close to doing that. And then I would never say never.
Yeah.
I think there are a number of opportunities out there that are attractive. Let's face it. I mean, there's going to be a ton of bankruptcies in our business, in the theater business, and hopefully we find opportunities that make sense for us, and we believe we will.
I like it. You seem like a smart guy, so I'm going to ask you this.
I fake it well.
You're doing a great job. Because I don't fully understand, it feels like rich people playing the lotto or gambling. Why does the stock market continue to rise in the face of, and I understand how the markets work to a degree, but, should we be, you talk about being conservative on the private side, and the public side is 0% conservative. I mean, it seems to a degree, and I guess how do you kind of think about that?
I think
sorry if that's a weird question.
No, it's not. I mean, it's backgrounds in finance. It's I think I ask myself that every day. We have taken an immense amount of risk out of the market. I think 2008 was the start of we'll bail people out in the public markets. I'm not sure anything that happened in 2008 when the Fed decided to bail people out, there was grounds to do that. I don't think there was a pandemic and we were forced to shut down.
Right.
So I revert back to where we are now, and this is a pandemic. Most of the businesses that are hurting right now did do nothing to deserve that hurt. They didn't do a thing. And we're now fighting 10 months into this to provide some real relief. So I think what the market has realized over the last 12 years is that the Fed is there to save the day. And maybe that's a bubble, and I think we all realize there's a bubble in the market. I think we clearly understand when you have stocks trading at multiples that it would take a generation to make sense to buy them. But I think when airlines spend $5 billion over the past 5 years of their earnings to buy back their own stock, and then a pandemic happens and they're out of money and the Fed bails them out, insane, well, why wouldn't stocks go higher? Because the Fed's going to bail you out. Right. So just keep buying stocks. And I think that's a very dangerous precedent, what we've done with the airlines.
Yeah. And doesn't that seem like, just from a layman's perspective, a farmer's perspective, doesn't that seem like a crazy, unsustainable long-term model? Like, don't you think there has to be like a reckoning of sorts? And is that, when you look at national debt and you look at just, the way in which behaviors of consumers look at that, I mean, every person is invested in the stock market now, and, and they're all high on it or hooked on it because it's just went up for, in the worst period of time, which you basically have an economy that doesn't represent the real economy or the private economy,
No.
So, it just seems like, when does that come? Does it come? Do we just get rid of money?
Yeah, I think the market can go up a lot longer than people believe is rational. You have the Fed printing an enormous amount of money all the time, pumping the system with liquidity, and yeah, it's a bubble. We get that. The question is, how does it end? And man, those printing presses have a lot more time to run before it ends. But I do think, this time around, the market might not be a great gauge of the actual economy. The market's always looking ahead, right?
Right. That's what I was trying to figure out. Is that really a gauge of things to come in the future, or is it off?
I think the market went down so much in March over the pandemic, and then quickly snapped back because folks that are smarter than me said, yeah, we're going to get a vaccine, we're going to reopen, and things will be okay. I think what the real issue down the road is, yes, I think the consumer probably is going to come out of this okay. So the market's looking ahead, but I don't know if the market's looking ahead to how do businesses like ours and yours and restaurants, what do they look like 3 years down the line when all that new debt they took on to survive is due?
Right.
And I think from now to that 3-year mark, I don't know what happens, but I certainly know the market is irrational, as Greenspan said in the late 90s. The market's irrational right now, and for better or worse.
No, it's a great perspective. And I just I had to share that with someone who I thought, understood it better than I, because I just have been watching it, and I'm just it just seems like, I don't know a whole lot about a whole lot, but it doesn't seem like it quite adds up, but, well, it's really great talking to you and kind of getting to hear your story. Really appreciate you coming on and telling us your story. So if people want to, over the holidays, get involved with Emagine, where can they find you? Where can they go? And, what are the ways in which they can get in touch and be aligned with, when things come back online, getting back to the theaters?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us is buy some gift cards. You can go to Emagine-Entertainment.com, or this weekend at a couple of sites, we'll be selling gift cards and giving away free popcorn. And an innovative thing we've done with Fathead, which is another local Michigan company, is if you buy a $40 gift card, we'll give you a $10 gift card to Fathead, free of charge. So you can go buy some fun stuff, or you can buy, I know our chairman, and most people know he's got his flat paw, we call it when you walk in, it's a cutout. You can buy a flat paw because people steal them all the time. So we decided to put them up for sale.
That's smart.
So you can buy a flat paw, and the proceeds will go to a charity near and dear to my heart, which is Wish Upon a Teen, which provides experiences for really sick teens. And the event that we do every year that's most important to me is we hold a prom for kids that were too sick to go to their own prom. And
that's awesome.
We fly everyone, drive everyone in. We get a hotel next to our Royal Oak location. And we have a whole prom. They walk in, they go into a room, they could pick their dress. Next room, they get their hair and makeup done. And then we go downstairs with Mojo in the morning, and we have DJs and a full prom.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
It's beautiful.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for
I have to thank you. This place is amazing. And I was telling folks I was going to meet you, and they laughed because you've done 2 of my bucket list items. You own a farm, which is my dream, although I'm more into animals. And you've done a TED Talk. So
not a very good one, but
I loved it. I loved it.
I was 22, and I never had seen so many people. And if you talk about freezing, we just forget everything that you rehearsed for 4 days. Stage fright to the max. So if I ever get invited back, which I don't know why they would, I'll fucking nail it next time.
Well, you've knocked 2 out of my bucket list. So if you ever need help on this farm, let me know.
All right, deal. Sounds good, man. Best
Such
of
a
luck,
pleasure.
man. Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you remember that everything in life is borrowed, so make sure to love hard, work hard, stay humble, and help each other out along the way. Find and subscribe to more of Everything Borrowed episodes through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. If you really want to make our day, drop us a 5-star review so more people can find the work we're sharing. Stay up to date with weekly articles on business, life, and my interactions with amazing entrepreneurs and creators at everythingborrowedpodcast.com. EBP is produced by Chelsea Cox and Jason Brown. Edited and filmed by Nick Ferguson. Art is produced by Adam Yarbrough. Everything Borrowed is an after-hours media production. Copyright 2020.